Hello everyone, we are here at Zylostar's head office in Dubai, and today we'll talk about what is the future of Bitcoin. We'll cover very important topics and we'll clear a lot of confusions. So please watch the video completely and I hope you will enjoy it.
So let's get started. So Bitcoin is a digital currency that operates on a decentralized network, which means that there is no central authority who can control the network. That means the computers who are a part of Bitcoin network, they control the transactions. Unlikely what happened in the bank right now, or what generally happens in the bank, is that when you send money to your friend, there is a person sitting in the bank who verifies the transaction. It is just opposite in the Bitcoin network. When you send Bitcoin to someone, the computer verifies the transaction and each log is recorded in a public ledger. But in the Bitcoin network, the users will remain anonymous. That means the name will not come. It will be a public address which will be shown. So transactions can be made with no middlemen, meaning there is no such central authority like a bank to verify a transaction. And all the transactions are recorded in a public ledger. All these transactions are done without a middleman. That means nobody owns the network, which is a very important point, and that is known as decentralization. That means there is no central point of failure, and these networks are used and operated by a different consensus system. One is proof of work, which is used in Bitcoin. There are other like proof of stake. Now let's talk about why Bitcoin is a democratic form of money. Bitcoin is democratic. Why? Because you control your own Bitcoins. If you have your private key which is intact with you, that means you are the owner of the Bitcoin and nobody can take it from you until you give your private keys to them. So as long as you keep your private key intact, only known to you, you can conduct all manner of business without the requirement and revealing your information to anyone. This is a very good chance for businesses and people to take money or to take Bitcoin anyone from the world without having any central restrictions. This is a very important point, and that is why Bitcoin is known as democratic form of money. Now let's talk about what others are saying about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a new investment asset which is very undervalued. So if you can recognize the potential value of that asset, Bitcoin is a new investment asset which is very undervalued. Same like in 2000s when people used internet, many of people thought that we don't need internet and it's okay to live without internet. But think of today's time. Do you think you can live without internet? Sooner or later, it will be a case of blockchain and Bitcoin. You will need that digital asset and a digital currency in your lives no matter what. No government can make more gold. Similar to that, no government can make more Bitcoin. According to the Goldman Sachs, it says that Bitcoin is considered as a store of value, which is a very important point. People think that gold is a store of value. Goldman Sachs and other big institutions are thinking that Bitcoin also has that value, which is store of value, right? We will compare gold and Bitcoin very soon, but let's talk about the last point, that the future of digital currency is arriving very fast. The investors should think as Bitcoin as a store of value, which is a very important point. Now talk about what is the difference between gold and Bitcoin, and then we'll see what other difference we can create. So the first thing is regulation. So it depends upon country to country. Bitcoin has some regulations here in UAE which recently got announced. Some countries are allowing Bitcoin, some countries are not allowing Bitcoins. Think about China. They have banned all the Bitcoin transactions. But think of this, if you own a Bitcoin wallet and somebody else own a Bitcoin wallet, you can send Bitcoin from A person to B person without having central authority. So even if country bans Bitcoin, it doesn't matter because you can still transact from A to B because there is no central authority. That's one regulation. Utility. Now talk about Bitcoin utility and gold utility. Gold is being used for so many years. It is being used in jewelry, in industries, and different products. Bitcoin utility is starting to grow up. Now businesses are accepting Bitcoins, right? If you talk about volatility, started in 2021, the Bitcoin price was 32,222 and rose to 69,000, which is a very volatile. That means Bitcoin rose 50%. Gold started with 1943 per ounce and dropped to 1683, which is less volatile than Bitcoin. Now, these are some uses of gold as a utility. So I've told you that gold has been used in jewelry, which is 78%. It is being used in electronics, computer devices, medals, and awards. And then gold is again a store of value because mining gold is very difficult. And because mining gold is difficult, similar to Bitcoin mining is also difficult because that requires computing power. Now talk about how Bitcoin created a lot of value in last 12 years, and then we'll see how the Bitcoin transaction or a blockchain works. And then who created this white paper, who created Bitcoin. We will talk about these three things. Let me show you a few examples of that. So this is a blockchain demo where I'll be presenting you some transactions, how the transactions are recorded. So let's say if A wants to send money to B, let me write something here so that you will understand. So let's say if A wants to send $50 to B, right? And I want to write one more transaction. B wants to send, let's say $25 to C. Okay, once I click on mine, these transactions are mined forever. That means these transactions are solved by the computer, right? Now you see the color has changed, right? Now let's say each block contains thousands of transactions. Block number 1 has only 2 transactions. Now let me write another few transactions. So let's say B wants to send, let's say 15 to D, and then D wants to send 5 to E, right? And then again mine it, right? Now what I'm trying to tell you here is once you mine the transaction, that means once the computer will solve the transaction, you cannot go back in the history and change it, and that is why this Bitcoin blockchain is very secure. Now let's say if I want to go back in history and change this transaction, and I want to say that B only want to send 20 to C, and I want to edit it, I want to do some fraud, I want to change the history, I cannot do it. Once I click back, all the transactions will become red. That means no more transactions are valid. So the miners, the computers, they're keeping an eye on the people who want to change the transactions in the history, and which is not possible. Once you change it, that means you have to entirely change all the blocks which are written. So think about that. Bitcoin started in 2009. There are so many blocks which are registered until now. So if you want to change anything, you have to go back in history and change everything, right? That too, every Bitcoin block is mined in 10 minutes. So you just have 10 minutes to change everything, which is very, very, very difficult, very close to impossible, right? Now let's just talk about who created this, right? So Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009 created this, a white paper, which is known as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So if you want to read about this, you can read it. We will try to send all the links in the description below, so you can read all those. So you can read the paper and you can download the paper as well, right? This is a Bitcoin white paper which started in 2009, and until now it has created a value, right? We will see how Bitcoin priced started in 2009 and how much it is now. We will talk about these things later in this video. Now let's just talk about how Bitcoin held value during this time. So let's see. Now the first important point is durability. So Bitcoin cannot be destroyed, nor does it perish. It will survive if the network survives. That means if there is an internet and if there is a group of computers which are supporting each other into a decentralized network, by that time Bitcoin will always remain durable. Nobody can destroy it. There is no central authority, so even if you destroy a couple of computers, more computers will join it and it will succeed the network, and the network will be continue running. In last year, when China announced that there will be no more miners who will be entertained in the country and they banned Bitcoin, the Bitcoin hash rate becomes lower. But sooner or later, when more and more computers joined the network, Bitcoin hash rate went up. That means Bitcoin network went slow a bit, but then because of more miners coming in together, the hash rate comes to the normal, right? The another very important point is portability. It is very difficult if you compare gold and Bitcoin. If you want to send, let's say 100 ounces or 500 ounces or a big quantity of gold from one place to another place, it will be very difficult, lot of customs and all that thing. So portable gold is difficult. But talk about Bitcoin, you can buy a small hardware wallet like a pen drive shown here, and you can send money to anyone around the world without any restrictions. It is easy to carry, it is easy to portable, right? The another very important point, which is scarcity. As you everyone know that gold is scarce, think about Bitcoin is really scarce because there are only 21 million Bitcoins to be mined in the entire life. So if you want to know real scarcity, you should always think about Bitcoin, which is a really scarce asset. Now we'll talk about why Bitcoin has value. The three things that I've told you is durability, portability and scarcity, and then we'll talk about how Bitcoin is growing in value against dollar. Now you all know that central banks, they print money, and this is a chart where you can see from 2000 onwards until 2022 there is almost more than $20,000 billion of money that is printed, and most of the money is printed during COVID time. So if you can see this chart from 2020 onwards, the line is completely straight. That means so much money is being printed in last couple of years, and because so much money is printed, the money gets devalued, and because money gets devalued, people want to save their money in scarce assets like gold and Bitcoin. That is why more and more traditional companies, traditional investors are now trying to find value in Bitcoin, and now they started accepting Bitcoin as a real store of value. Right, now talk about Bitcoin halving. It is another very important concept which helped Bitcoin to create and to hold its value over these 12 years. Now what happens is, when the computer solves the Bitcoin transaction, they get rewarded in the form of Bitcoin. So in 2009, when miners and computers was trying to solve the problem, they used to get rewarded 50 Bitcoin every block. But then this reward gets half every 4 years. That means the supply of Bitcoin coming out is getting lesser and lesser. And if the supply is getting lesser, you think the demand is going higher, the price can go exponentially high. So in 2012, Bitcoin reward came down to 25 Bitcoin, and then in 2016 it was 12.5 Bitcoin. Currently it is 6.25 Bitcoin per block, and then in 2024 it will be half again, which is 3.125. Now let's see how this graph looks like. So you can see that the blue line shows that total number of Bitcoin mined, and the orange line shows that inflation rate during the period. Right, now let's talk about how the price went high or how the price reacted just halving of the Bitcoin. So if you see in 2009, around November, the price was just $12, and that's the time the first halving happened. So after the first halving in 2016, the price went to $623. In just 4 years, price went from $12 to $623, which is a 2,875% gain. Don't you think it's enormous? Now see what happened in 2016 onwards. In 2016, when the price was $623, it jumped to $9,400 in 2020. Again, it is a 1,435% gain in the price. Now think of that. In 2024, what will happen? Right now, the price is trading around $40,000. When we were making this presentation, the price was $46,000. Now price has went back to $40,000. Now think of this: when the price will have halving in 2024, what will be the price? We have seen the gains in the last two halvings, and we are expecting price to go high exponentially. This is another factor why Bitcoin price held value over the years, because the supply of Bitcoin is getting half every 4 years. Now we'll talk about one more important point which you need to know if you want to start investing in Bitcoin. Every Bitcoin wallet is having a private key, and you need to save that key, otherwise you will lose your Bitcoins. See what happened with lost Bitcoins. So when a user loses his wallet, it has an effect of removing money out of circulation. So if nobody has the key of a wallet, you cannot use Bitcoin. That means this Bitcoin cannot be used, cannot be sent to anyone, and that means that Bitcoin is out of circulation. So if Bitcoin is out of circulation, that means now the total number of Bitcoins in circulation is even lesser, which is another very important point, that the demand is going to go higher, but the number of Bitcoins that can be used is even lesser, because some people will lose their Bitcoin keys and it will be lost forever, right? So if you want to invest in Bitcoin, always keep an eye on your keys. Do not give it to anyone, keep it in a safe place. That is a very important point, right? Now we'll talk about what is the practical utility of Bitcoin. So these are the major companies which have already started accepting Bitcoin as their payment, right? Microsoft, PayPal, Starbucks, MasterCard, these are very, very big companies which are already started accepting Bitcoin as a payment mode. Now we'll talk about how governments they are trying to create their own central bank coins, and how they are also competing with Bitcoin and digital form of money. So these are the countries which are already working on creating their own CBDC, central bank digital currency. So as more and more countries will come up and they create their own digital currencies, the value of Bitcoin is again going to go higher. So you need to understand that this is a similar asset class like gold, but in a digital form. So if you want to invest and you want to know more about Bitcoin and how to invest Bitcoin in a strategical manner, please do contact us. We are here to teach you and guide you how do you do strategical investments in Bitcoin. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll try to record these type of videos more and more. Bye bye, take care.